Do you never have a second thought?
Oh, I couldn't be more proud of her and the campaign she waged. You begin to think about legacy, and I think that Sarah Palin will play a very big role in the American political scene for a long time.
No regrets from Senator John McCain, and I think he's probably right. Sarah Palin, a few decades, that sounds right.
Yeah, she's already been, it feels like it's been a few decades already. This cycle, almost over, but continuing and continuing here on Top Line, which starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Amy Walter.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know about what's going on in this wacky political world. Twitter.com/Rick Klein, Twitter.com/Amy E. Walter. Amy, a good happy birthday to
you. Thank you very much.
And tell us, what's the birthday girl thinking about?
As we learned, I do not share a birthday with anybody famous, but for two politically famous people.
Yes.
Michael Steele, RNC chairman, and Grover Norquist.
Huge day.
Big day. All right. Tea time is our first headline today, and 2010 really is the year of the Tea Party. The latest ABC News Yahoo poll out this morning shows that more voters than not think that the Tea Party can bring about major change. 55% of voters believe that, 37% say they don't believe that. Not surprisingly, independents and Republicans feel more strongly that they will bring change. Of course, the big question is, what kind of change? We didn't ask them that question, and whether they think that's a good or a bad thing.
You know, I remember certain presidents of the United States running on a platform of change as well. Maybe not exactly the Tea Party, but yeah, no doubt, huge force. Which brings us to our next top line. Bring back that wall. It is not every day that you hear a candidate for office in the United States talk about East German border policy, but Joe Miller has actually endorsed the way that East Germany patrolled its border, saying if East Germany could do it, we could do it too. Of course, East Germany did not have a problem with securing its borders with West Germany back in the Cold War.
As I recall, not a lot of people trying to get into East Germany.
Right. Well, that's maybe one change.
There was that. And then the machine guns with the barbed wire, number two, not going to really work. All right. The next top line we go to, Christine's Constitution. This morning in the Senate debate in Delaware, Christine O'Donnell, Chris Coons got into a little bit of an argument over what actually is in the First Amendment. Chris Coons saying that there is a church and state separation. Christine O'Donnell pushing back on that, saying that there was indeed no such thing in the Constitution. Of course, we went and have a little soundbite here for you guys. You decide.
You're telling me that the separation of church and state is found in the First Amendment.
Government shall make no establishment of religion.
That's in the First Amendment.
Yes, it is.
We even looked it up.
We did look it up, and actually the crowd was a law school crowd, so they knew it too.
Yes, and according to AP reports, there was a gasp that went out from the audience. Even, I think, first-year students.
They're checking their Constitution.
All right.
And finally today, Skinnerd for Senate. As we saw, Senator John McCain is stumping around the country for Republican candidates, even though he is on the ballot in just a few weeks' time. But his Democratic candidate has a different tack. Take a look at Rodney Glassman's latest.
Sweet home, Arizona. John, it's time to retire you.
Sweet home indeed. And we have invited Mr. Glassman onto our program, provided he sings and plays a little music.
Well, and that he sings Freebird.
That's right, a little Freebird.
That's what it's all about.
We begin today's program with Karen Ackerman, who's the political director of the AFL-CIO. Big elections coming up for you guys and, of course, everyone else in just a couple of weeks. And I want to start with the ground game because so much is made of this. What is the difference going to be? What can the AFL-CIO provide for Democrats in this election that you think will be critical?
We have enormous numbers of members. We relate to and communicate with union members, retirees, household members, Working America members who are our community affiliates, part of the labor movement. We have a united labor movement effort, and really our outreach in the battleground states that we're working in all the races, which is over 400 different races. We're talking to over 17 million union voters. So our reach is very broad. There are union members everywhere, active union members in every state, in every race around the country. So the labor movement really has a huge role to play in this election, as in all elections.
But is there something that you all are doing this year that's different from 2008 or 2006 that you think could really make a difference?
Well, I think that, lots of people talk about the enthusiasm gap in terms of middle-class people, working families. And there's no doubt that, that middle-class families are disappointed and nervous and scared about the economy. They're very fearful for their jobs. They're fearful for their kids, being able to educate their kids, send their kids to college. Their kids are coming back home to live. Folks are nervous about their jobs being exported. So there's a real fear and anger and anxiety among people across this country. And that leads to an enthusiasm gap that sort of is what people talk about. We're finding that, yes, that is part of what we're dealing with among union voters, but the fact that union voters will have lots of information about where each candidate stands on the issues they care about, on the economic issues that they care about, when they go to the polls, that because their union communicates with them, that is an empowering kind of situation because they trust their union is their organization, and so we are finding that we're overcoming the so-called enthusiasm gap among union families.
You put out a memo yesterday talking about the union movement as a firewall for Democrats, and you said in the memo, our grassroots program is going to make the difference race by race to hold majorities. A lot of folks think Democrats aren't going to hold the majority. Is it going to be, if that happens, is it labor's fault?
No, I would not say it's labor's fault. I would say that many of these races are going to be very close. Folks are talking about recounts all over the country. And certainly in districts, particularly congressional districts, but in statewide races as well, where the margins are going to be very narrow, as many of us expect. The difference will be and can be the labor vote. We expect the labor vote to be far exceed the non-labor vote, as it has in cycle after cycle for the last decade, because of the intensity of the union program.
Well, just looking at the poll that we had out today, where 55% of voters saying that they thought the Tea Party was going to bring change. Curious where your members are on some of these Tea Party candidates and how much work you've done in those specific races. Is there an attraction, given that there's anger and frustration out there, your members attracted to a lot of these Tea Party candidates? How much of it is convincing them not to support versus convincing them to vote for something?
I think there is an attraction about Tea Party candidates because there's a lot of visibility for the Tea Party effort. I'm not sure there is much attractiveness about the Tea Party candidates, but certainly sort of the anger that people normally feel that the Tea Party is tapping into, I think, exists. And so what we see is dramatic change in our own polling among union voters. So for instance, in Pennsylvania, in the statewide Senate race before Labor Day, there was basically a 6-point margin. Toomey was leading Sestak was leading members by just 6 points. Now, because of the intensive communication program that we have, where union voters are very clear what the differences are on economic issues between Sestak and Toomey, that the margin is now at 29–30% difference.
Among labor members,
yes, among union members in the state of Pennsylvania. And we're talking about 1.5 million union voters in the state. Cycle after cycle, taking Pennsylvania as an example, the union vote is about 30%. Of the total vote. So the union, what we do and what union activists do, talking to union members, talking to their co-workers, talking to their families, as I said, may make the difference, will make the difference in race after race.
I want to ask you, in previous cycles, labor movement has been a big force in terms of outside money, been able to raise a lot of money, spend a lot of money for Democrats. This year, we're seeing most of the money being spent by the other side. What happened? What happened in your estimation? Did Democrats not try to raise as much money, or was it just not there?
I think there are some unions that do a lot of independent expenditures. There always have been. Most unions, however, really focus on their membership program, the AFL-CIO program, which takes into account 53 different national unions. We focus on the members because we have,
but the Chamber's
so
spending so much money. They're by some measure, the biggest group out there.
Yes, there is. The Chamber, the Karl Rove, American Crossroads, These groups are, because of the new ruling, Citizens United, have really been able to put enormous amounts of money. And our view is it just distorts democracy, that it is not, it is such a discrepancy between what the wealthiest in this country are doing, frankly, to protect their tax breaks and to protect outsourcing and to protect, you know, free trade agreements, and that's who they represent. And the labor movement program, which is basically the counter to that, is a program to defend and protect working people's interests.
And we'll see it play out over the next 2 weeks. Karen Ackerman from the AFL-CIO, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.